Oh, Mrs. Garcia, how do you balance it all? You're a school counselor and new homeowner, a mother of two, and grad student. You're an ander. At National University, we see the whole you. That's why we're dedicated to your professional growth through faculty mentorships and career support, so you can focus on what matters most. National University, supporting the whole you. Learn more at nu.edu.
This is VSiN By The Books on VSiN, the sports betting network.
We are back to begin hour number 3. VSiN By The Books. Dave Ross here, downtown Las Vegas, Nevada. He's our closer, Jensen Lewis, back home in Cleveland, Ohio. Great hour on deck. Going to have more of a Cleveland feel here. Adam Burke's going to join us. Talk some baseball with Adam. Also, we got a big day today. Kentucky Derby betting guide is out for VSiN Pro subscribers. We'll get to all of that. And, of course, Wednesdays with Wes. Wes Reynolds will join us here to break down the Byron Nelson. And, again, just looking at that from a cursory look here, Jensen, boy, you don't see that every day in the PGA Tour. I get it that Scotty Scheffler, when he's in the field, is going to be the favorite. But you don't get one guy that's under a $2 betting favorite, and then the next guy in the same tournament's 18-1, which is where we find Jordan Spieth. So we'll see with Wes, we can find some value in there before maybe you play that just the short number on Scotty Scheffler. So a lot to get to there. But let's begin hour number 3 with some very interesting potential news and or noise.
Is it news?
Corleone is a man who insists on hearing bad news immediately.
Or just noise?
Are you going to act like this is news? Just noise. This is noise.
Let's separate the impactful from the insignificant with one simple question. News or noise?
To quote Usual Suspects, a rumor isn't a rumor if it doesn't die. And the rumors coming out of Chapel Hill right now are that what is going on with Bill Belichick? Blink twice if you're in a hostage situation. I mean, it's like you're hearing all kinds of stuff after the fallout of the 60 Minutes CBS interview with Bill Belichick. And now the news that's spinning from this potential news, could just be noise, is that North Carolina themselves, Jensen, are becoming concerned with hiring arguably the greatest head coach the NFL had ever seen. And now before we play one game in Chapel Hill, are we really getting concerned about Bill and where his head is at? Is this news or a whole lot of noise?
It kind of continues from what I said yesterday. It becomes a lot more newsworthy if now it affects the players and how they're constant. If they're dealing with answering questions each week about this situation, then yeah. I mean, unfortunately, we're here entering the month of May, the end of this week, and we're still a couple of months out from North Carolina taking on TCU in their opener. I guess for me, overall, you look at that win total 7.5. They should be able to, barring something crazy where there's more scandal, there's more things that end up coming out of it. I go back to the Patriot days. Like, this was a buttoned-up operation, and I don't know what's changed. I don't know outside of this current iteration of the relationship affecting what's going on. But I'm more focused on, like, okay, we haven't heard anything from players, which that's what I'm waiting for. If there are issues where the players start saying something, okay, now we have a much bigger problem.
Okay, he was on, for people that don't know, you're just waking up and you're going, what are you guys talking about? Well, we're talking about he's got a much younger girlfriend now in his days here in Chapel Hill. He was on 60 Minutes and CBS to promote his new book. Like, does Bill Belichick need to promote? Okay, so that's another thing. So these are different things than just football that we're talking about. By the way, there are numbers up already, as you mentioned, the win total. They're 2.5-point favorites on September 1st against TCU. You can go run to the window right now. If you want to bet that game, you can do so right now. But, I was kind of joking that if this is news that Carolina, that the entity that is North Carolina is concerned about what's going on with this relationship. And, oh, by the way, she's on the football letterhead. Like, when you get emails, she's in the text chain or the group thing, like the football operations. She is now somehow a part of this with Bill. Like, that would be the concerning part for me. Like, look, who am I to judge, Jensen? live your life. Whatever you want to do, whatever makes you happy, I'm going to say do it. I have no problem with that. But from a betting side, from a football side, from an employer side, if North Carolina is starting to get a little bit, shall we say, nervy about what we just saw unfold and what continues to unfold from this interview, then it could actually affect the product. Like, dude, we're bringing you in here because you're the greatest football coach of all time, in our eyes, UNC. We want you to do what you do. And what you do is you get these young men to get ready to compete in the ACC, maybe take a flyer on Carolina. That was all the buzz to win the conference. It's been down. Play the over on the win total. Does this affect the way you look at North Carolina because of the look of this interview?
Yeah, well, it's even further, right? I know there's an article in The Athletic that just came out that you remember a lot of NFL teams have turned down being on Hard Knocks. And, of course, you just look a year ago as Joe Shane saying, the issues with Saquon Barkley and how that all transpired. They didn't draft Jaden Daniels, so on and so forth. But apparently, the football program there for North Carolina was going to be that pivot. That deal also fell apart. Details forthcoming here in this Athletic article was just released about an hour ago. But again, overall, as far as the betting concerns, I think you're gonna find out a lot first and foremost of how that team performs in that initial game, right, against TCU, and maybe that gives us a little more of an idea. But as far as a win total, I mean, just go look at the opponents who they play in conference. Like, okay, on paper, with the talent they have coming back, Dave, this should be an easy over 7.5. That being said, you have all these distractions and those things kind of snowball. Then all of a sudden that affects you leading up to potentially placing or not placing that season-long win total wager.
If you're watching us on VSiN.com and the picture that we chose for News or Noise, you just look at the picture and it kind of makes me chuckle. Bill looks like Bill, like uninterested, and she looks like what you would imagine a mid-20s girl to look like out there in the red carpet. She looks fantastic. And Bill looks like, I can't even imagine what the conversations are like at breakfast. But again, rooting for them, rooting for North Carolina. But I wonder if the employer is starting to have some questions about the relationship and if it's affecting the football. And our guy, Michael Lombardi, I'm sure he's sitting there going, we're going to be fine. Everybody calm down. It's going to be okay at Chapel Hill. But it was an interesting week, and the conversation has continued, I'm sure, at Duke, North Carolina State, and Wake Forest there in the Triangle area. I'm sure they're very happy that this is already a quote-unquote distraction for UNC before they played game number 1 against TCU as 2.5-point favorites. We've got a couple games in the association here very quickly. Jensen wanted to get to with the Warriors and the Rockets, and then the T-Wolves and the Lakers. Again, both of these are potential closeout situations tonight in the association out west. The better chance to close it out would tell you, obviously, that the Rockets are shorter favorites here, 4.5. Lakers up to 6. So the shorter shot would be Golden State to close this out tonight against H-Town. But I'm kind of looking at the T-Wolves a little bit. And I'm starting to think, Jensen, man, do they feel confident now that if J.J. Redick says, hey, I coached the way I coach and I played all my guys and there were no subs and this is the 5 and we already beat that 5, they've got to feel like, man, they've got tired legs. We're the young kids, right? Let's run these guys, see if we can get a lead, and all the pressure is going to go to L.A.
Closeout parlay tonight. Remember we talked about the money lines yesterday. So closeout parlay right now on DraftKings, if you like both the Warriors and the Timberwolves, almost plus 600, plus 584 on the money lines there. So nice little payout. And if the Warriors do get across the line, you could also put in a middle opportunity there with the Lakers against the Timberwolves. So fantastic stuff here from what we've seen with Minnesota. I think you and I in our conversations, not only with JVT, but some of our other esteemed colleagues here felt that the seed number next to the Wolves was not indicative of how talented this team could be. I think we also had some trepidation about how much the Lakers needed guys outside of Luka and LeBron. And if one of those guys does not perform well, remember, LeBron did not play well early in this series either. At a couple of games there was like, not very good. That was an area of concern because we felt the depth of Minnesota could be quite good. Then on top of it, mentioned it before, JJ Redick not subbing. Like, I know as a former player, I'm going to take that a little personally. Like, dude, I'm a reason you got here, man. Woo. And in a postseason game, you're not going to sub in the second half. Yeah. The Lakers not only trying to go up against the Wolves, but they're going up against themselves a little bit right now.
We've got some numbers changed here, just slightly, but I want to bring these to the people's attention. One behind me here at Circa, it's still 4 for the Rockets and 6 for the Lakers, but not at DraftKings.
Yeah.
Right now, Houston's down to 3.5, and the Lakers back down to 5.5. So we always talk about shopping for the number depending on which side you're looking at here, but it shows you the market is starting to round before we get to these 2 games tonight, and maybe a little bit of respect here for those closeout scenarios, at least at DraftKings right now, that the T-Wolves and the Warriors might be able to get that done. You're looking at the under, is that correct, in the Houston-Golden State game?
Yep, gave that out yesterday, under 205, also down to 203.5 here at DraftKings. By the way, that Warriors-Rockets price, the Warriors just came down, literally as we were talking about it, just came down to plus $1.36 on the money line. Ooh. So some money coming in, and hey, let's face it, the half-court offense for the Rockets has been dismal at best.
Yeah.
And so the Warriors' experience on the road in a lower-scoring game, they could do this. You know, they could put the Rockets away if they are very mindful of not turning the basketball over.
And I'll say this about Anthony Edwards. I mean, the kid's got a flair for the big stage. Could there be a bigger stage than closing out LeBron and Luka in L.A.?
He keeps saying, I'm the man. Right? I am him.
So he's not tanking this thing to get back to Game 6. I'd be a little bit leery of those T-Wolves tonight. Edge Boost. It's the first ever bank account that's built just for bettors, ensuring all your gambling transactions are always approved. No usage fees, no minimums. Earn cashback rewards, 100% approval for all your betting deposits. Sign up today, edgeboost.bet. Use the promo code BOOK, title of the show. Deposit $25. Edge Boost going to match that deposit. That's edgeboost.bet. When we come back, we'll give you our best bets. That's next here on VSiN By The Books.
Oh, Mrs. Garcia, you're a school counselor and new homeowner and grad student. You're an Ander. National University supports the whole you, so you can focus on what matters most. Learn more at nu.edu.
You're tuned in to VSiN By The Books, right here on VSiN.
We are back. VSiN By The Books. Dave Ross, Jensen Lewis. Going to have Adam Burke join us in the next segment, break down some Major League Baseball. And also with Wes Reynolds here later on this hour to talk some all things golf, figure out how we might be able to look at the Scotty Scheffler. Is this the week for Scotty? Remember, world number 1 has not won in the calendar year of 2025. Odds market says this is the week he's going to do it. We'll find out if Wes agrees or not. Let's get to our best bets. They're brought to us by G-Bank, the official bank of VSiN. And before we get to the night on ice and in the NBA, how about some of those baseball plays that we have already in pocket and some leans that you have associated with Whiff Wednesday? Hopefully, if you check that out, and also the Daily Diamond today. Double dip, I did want to start with the Cardinals and the Reds here. Jensen, I know like for fans, for bettors, sometimes we don't think about the bullpen usage of what that does with a double dip. But how do you know Terry Francona very well? How do you think he manages that today in this doubleheader matchup here with the Cardinals?
Yeah, and again, for people that don't know, this is a day-night double dip, so you'll have time in between 12:40 Eastern first pitch, then 6:40 p.m. The Cardinals do have both their starters. Miles Mikolas will be in Game 1, Steven Matz in Game 2. Brady Singer goes in Game 1 for Cincinnati, then undecided, always a real tough opponent there in Game 2. So, yeah, a lot of this predicated off of you would love nothing more than length from your starting pitcher, but you're also playing to we want to win Game 1, then we'll figure out Game 2 because you can use the 27th man to add there for the doubleheader. If you want an extra arm, you can also option guys after game. one, Dave. So there are a lot of different ways to do this. So they'll worry about game 2 when they get there. Obviously, in the back of their mind, like you don't want to expend a boatload of resources. But as we look at this matchup, I think that, again, St. Louis, they've been so weird. And initially, I looked at the +1.5 there with the Cardinals, but going up against Brady Singer, a guy who's been very consistent thus far, going to shy away from that. I'll kind of wait and see what lineups are here, and hopefully they get posted the next hour or so. But again, no play for me on that early game, but a nice little early slate for us here in MLB.
You are going to look to the Wind Twins against the Guardians here today. Tough one yesterday after the rain delay. They lose 2-1, but maybe today is a play on from Minnesota?
Yeah, again, more so a play on Pablo Lopez, who we mentioned in Whiff Wednesday. 3 career road starts at Progressive Field, a $1.45 ERA. He has gone at least 6 innings in all 3 of those starts. So mention the lean to the outs recorded market if you want to play a player prop. I do like the run line at plus $1.36 here for the Twins on DraftKings going up against Luis Ortiz. There's just been a lot of blow up innings for him thus far this year. And for a Twin offense that was really stymied yesterday by Tanner Bybee, once they finally got it underway, I do think they bounce back tonight and are able to get a multi-run win.
And again, after we're done here on By the Books, don't go anywhere because we have a numbers game coming up with Gil Alexander and Kelly Bidwin after us. And I cannot wait to hear what Gil is going to have for his most wins in May market. It's a really, I think it's a fascinating market to break down. Obviously, a 30-day race here to see if you can cash some of those bigger tickets. We've got some plays we talked about in hour number 1. I'm looking at the Phillies. You can get them north of 10-1 here with their schedule. I think it gets really kind of simple for them in the middle part of it. If you want to take a longer flyer, I do like the Royals. You can get them now. They've gone up to 42.50 here. They were 40-1 overnight. Those numbers have adjusted, Jensen, since we've been talking about them. And you've got some other plays in pocket that you like too, starting with the Metropolitans with the win today. They could wrap up that March-April market for people that have the Mets to win this month, but you think they might be able to carry this over to May too.
I think there's 3 teams that really stand out to me. And yes, the Mets, just a recent form, if you will, overall. We know they've been arguably the most complete team thus far, and that's even with injuries. Again, they've had to overcome that both in the rotation, some bumps in the road, ineffectiveness wise in the bullpen. The offense has been great. Their schedule does set up quite well for bottom feeder teams or teams that have not played well. They do have some stiff opponents there with the Yankees and the Dodgers, but I think overall 14-1, absolutely would take a stab at that. The Mariners almost 28-1 at Circa, and then the Reds almost 70-1. I just think the Reds, the way they're playing right now, and again, they can get off to a great start if they're able to win that series finale against St. Louis tomorrow at home. But again, you're looking for consistency in the rotation. You're looking for offenses that are in that top half, if not the top 10 of where they are entering the month. Because I think offensively you can overcome so much more once the weather warms up a little bit than if you're not pitching well. You always want to keep your team in games to be able to win the close ones for sure. And if your bullpen's great, that's where the Mariners have been, surprisingly not as dominant thus far. I think that's an area you want to attack as well.
Love those. And again, Reds at plus 68.50. I hope that is in play, because if that's in play, Jensen, at the end of the month, and we know they're also in play, I got a 9-1 ticket on them to win the Central with the Cubs, who have been off to a really good start themselves. Cubs, by the way, are the shortest betting price here for the most wins in May at plus 425. If you like Chicago as the short shot there. Some plays and some leans that you have here in the NBA and the night on ice. The Rockets now, this number 4 here at Circa against the Warriors tonight to avoid elimination. You do think they might be able to extend this series and send it back to Golden State?
Yeah, I mean, seeing the money come in on the Warriors is a bit troubling, but I think I'm more confident in another defensive gem here by the Warriors and the Rockets. And until the Rockets, half-court offense shows me anything different, I'm not going to be as worried about it. So locked it in yesterday under 205. I think it's at 203.5 at most places at this point. But I think we're in a great spot tonight. Two really good games I think we could have on tap. And I do hope the Lakers come to play, because I would love nothing more than to see that game go into the fourth quarter and see how that one plays out.
Yeah, these totals are down now, 203.5 here for Golden State and Houston, 209 for the T-Wolves and the Lakers. Again, depending on your book, and shop around to get the best number for side and total. 5.5 is what we're seeing at DraftKings. It's 6 here at Circa, so slight half-point adjustments there. To the night on ice, I kind of like where your head's at here with Tampa Bay against Florida, the Battle of Florida here. We know that Florida can eliminate Tampa with a win tonight, but we've seen so many of these games. If you're it's a 1-goal spot, the pulling of the goalie, so many of these. We've seen upwards of 1-2 goals that you're getting with empty netters here. Does that get you that big juicy price point here with Tampa Bay tonight?
I hope so. I mean, this may be just maybe more betting with my heart that they finally do what I hope they do. I got burned by Tampa on the puck line the first 2 games because Vasilevsky was a no-show. Hopefully he's gotten it together. And I do agree with Paul from earlier in the hour that there is that opportunity with the suspensions there of Ekblad and what Tampa could rally around. I mean, you've got to take care of home ice, right? And I mean, if nothing else, your season's on the line. But I think they find a way to really impose their will here a little bit. I know I've said that with the Avalanche. They didn't do it. Not that they're on the banned list, but dear God, come on, Tampa. One time, you got one job. Make it happen, multi-goal victory, even if it's under a second left to get it home.
Knicks are on my ban list after they blew up my chalky parlay last night. I don't know how Indiana got home to begin with, but once that gets home, then the Knicks can't get there. Come on. The Celtics, that was a foregone conclusion at that point. Again, so that's a nice price point here for Tampa on the puck line here at plus 220 for Jensen to have that in pocket. G-Bank is up in the ante, up to a $750 bonus for new G-Bank Visa Signature Card customers. New customers who spend $1,000 on eligible purchases within 90 days from opening up their account, they're going to get a $250 bonus. In addition, if you spend $50,000 on gaming and sports app loads within the first 30 days of opening up your account, you're going to get another $500 bonus. That's potentially $750 right then and there. Apply now at VSiN.com/GBank. That's VSIN.com/GBank. Subject to credit approval. Terms and conditions do apply. Going to have Adam Burke again and Wes Reynolds here to round out the show here. But back to baseball very quickly here with those Metropolitans. Now with 21 wins already on the season, we keep waiting for the Braves, and we've talked a lot about them leading up here to the last couple weeks. They're starting to get hot. Would you look at Atlanta, Jensen, at all and think that maybe not only they're in play now still for a wild card potentially, but still to get back into the mix here for the division in the NL East?
I just think they've been too talented. Wyatt Tomchak, if you're listening, I've told you before, I don't think I would have written them off whatsoever. I think the most surprising part has been, and maybe not so much because Spencer Strider's only had one start, but the ineffectiveness up and down the rotation. I mean, Spencer Schwellenbach has been their guy that they can rely upon, and Chris Sale has rounded to form a little bit. But I do think, I feel like it's just a matter of time for them. And I know you look at the standings here, Dave, in Atlanta overall, it just, even in the National League and even in that wild card scenario, when you're just 2 games back, I mean, we were just 2 weeks ago from them being 7.5 out.
Wow.
I just feel they're too deep. Alex Anthopoulos is phenomenal at the trade deadline. Long way to go here. So I think the Braves will definitely be heard from.
And you're talking about 7.5 for the playoffs. Right now, they're only 6.5 back in the East. So Philadelphia is 4.5 back. The Mets, that's a great start, right? They're going to have the best record, certainly with a win today, so you can understand that. But, yeah, I'm with you. Even as a Met fan, I look at that and go, there could be a little bit of value still left in the Braves if they keep this run coming. All right, when we come back, Adam Burke's going to join us here, our managing editor here at VSiN. We'll talk some baseball, also about that Kentucky Derby betting guide. That's out as well. Come on back. It's VSiN by the Books.
Tuned in to VSiN by the Books, right here on VSiN.
We continue VSiN By The Books. Dave Ross, Jensen Lewis here on a Wednesday. Always a pleasure to be joined by our managing editor here at the network. You can give him a follow on X as we do at Skating Tripods. Joins us now, the Progressive Guest Line. Adam Burke joins the program. Adam, how are you on this Wednesday, my man? I know you guys have been really busy getting this Kentucky Derby guide out. So VSiN Pro subscribers have access to it already. Tell the people what they get, because obviously the big race is Saturday. And for a novice like me, Adam, this is where a guide like this comes into play.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Run for the Roses is only, about a minute 50, but it took us a lot longer to put together the Kentucky Derby betting guide. But look, I'm very happy with the product that we put out. We've got best bets from Dave Tooley, Ed Sehan, Mike Somich, Aaron Halterman, our friends over at First Bet as well, Jeremy Plonk and Millie Ball. We've got some just general tips, some terminology, how to bet on horse racing. I wrote up a preview for Friday night's Kentucky Oaks. We've got a Derby draw report talking about the post positions and the pace for this race from Mike Somich. And also, if you want to take some shots, gamble a little bit on this race, Somich also put together a piece on his favorite superfectas for the Run for the Roses. And then Ed Sehan profiling all the horses in the field. So very comprehensive betting guide for being only 15 pages, but you can get that as a VSiN Pro subscriber over at VSiN.com.
Yeah, Berkey, definitely an exotic bettor here, so I cannot wait to dive into it later today and see what all is cooked up there. Speaking of cooked, that is the Chicago White Sox and the Colorado Rockies this year. Dave and I have tried to find great ways to make money on bad teams. Is this a spot potentially for the Southsiders that we can capitalize on?
Well, I'll say this. I mean, if you want to make money on bad teams, the Rockies seemingly can't cover a run line. So, we're going to get to a point where their run lines might be 2.5, just as, kind of the default. But you can look at alt run lines and stuff going against the Rockies because their pitching staff is as bad as their offense is. But as far as the White Sox go, I mean, look, this team's probably going to win, 55 games, something like that, when all is said and done, 50, 55 games, something like that. I think one of them might actually be tonight. I like them here in the plus 140 range against Milwaukee, where Tobias Myers just came back off the IL, made his first start against San Francisco. 4 innings, 2 runs, but he walked 4. He only threw a first pitch strike to 40% of the batters that he faced. Very low swinging strike rate. Really didn't look all that good. But Shane Smith, one of the few bright spots here so far for the White Sox, hasn't allowed more than 3 runs in any start. The one start he did allow 3 runs was at Fenway Park, which that's going to happen, right? It's Fenway Park. But he's typically a ground ball guy. I like the quality of his stuff. His stuff moves a ton. So I think he's a guy that can miss some bats, can be out there kind of, at least giving this team a fighting chance. And look, guys, this is one of those where the first 5 innings is plus 115 on the White Sox because of Shane Smith, because of his numbers. The full game is plus 140. It's going to be a sweat. I'm not going to enjoy it, but I think I got to look at the full game with that extra quarter of value.
$1.50 right now if you want to back the White Sox here in the South Side today. You're looking at Game 2 in Cleveland for the Guardians against the Twins. Rain delay yesterday, as Jensen pointed out, but no rain for that delay. And then the rains came once you started playing the game. We hope that we get good weather today. What's the play here for the Guardians against the Twins?
Yeah, I mean, Cleveland weather is unpredictable, but radars really aren't that unpredictable. So I don't know why this happens in that city multiple times a season. Personally, I think it's a concession money grab. But anyway, so Luis Ortiz here today. Luis Ortiz has a swinging strike percentage of nearly 15% over his last 3 starts. Zone contact percentage around 76%. Jensen could probably attest to this much better than I can as just some nerd who looks at stats. But if you're getting a lot of swings and misses on pitches in the strike zone, that's a really good indicator of the quality of your stuff. You don't have to have guys expand the zone. You don't have to have guys go out there and chase. And frankly, Ortiz hasn't had a lot of chases over his last 3 starts, but he's got 26 strikeouts in that span. He had 20 swings and misses in that last start against the Yankees, where he only went 4 1/3, did give up 4 runs, but he had 8 strikeouts, even had 5 walks too. So it was kind of the Robbie Ray, Edward Cabrera type of stat line, but he's missing a ton of bats here lately. To me, the Twins really still aren't that great of a contact-oriented offense, and you can get Ortiz at plus money over 5.5 strikeouts here. Pretty significant plus price at that. I think this one's worth a shot. I mean, I don't know if he's going to last, through the 5th inning here in this one, but he's got a chance to rack up strikeouts pretty quickly with how good his stuff has looked, albeit inconsistent in his last 3 starts. But I think he's a guy that we should pay attention to in the strikeout markets, because it's not like he needs to work deep into games to rack them up.
Yeah, it's a unique way to attack certain games in which you may not think that starting pitcher gives them a chance to win, but certainly from an individual standpoint could get the statistics you need to win the wager. We always like to kind of take a look at this point in the season, Adam, at least from a former player standpoint, probably in the next couple of weeks. It's that first real litmus test of, okay, what clubs are good, what clubs are bad, what are the areas of adjustment. Dave and I just talked about how the Braves have gotten hot at the right time. The Reds have won 5 in a row, have closed the distance in the Central Division. Are these future markets times for you to kind of maybe reassess the portfolio a little bit, maybe look at teams that have gotten out quickly or teams off to a slow start to be able to capitalize on some of those prices?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I know this is a big thing for you guys. I know that on Money Moves, Stormy and JVT are going to talk about it here in a little bit. And I know Gil's going to talk about it on a numbers game too. The market for team wins in the month of May. When you get to the start of a month and you start evaluating a team's schedule, that's where you maybe want to try to jump in on some of these division prices. Yes, no to make the playoff bets, stuff like that. I realize it can be very hard to have your money tied up for the next 5 months, essentially, waiting for these bets to be graded and waiting for them to play out. But this is kind of the time of the year where you think about the Cubs, for example, who lead the NL Central, and they haven't played a team with a losing record yet. This is a situation where they're playing very, very well against easily the toughest schedule in Major League Baseball to this point. So it's tough for me, even with the way that the Reds are playing, with the way that the Brewers are getting a little bit healthier. It's tough for me to look at anybody else in that Central Division because the Cubs have by and large navigated arguably the toughest part of their schedule already. So these are things that you can definitely take a look at in these futures markets. I know they're an odds-on favorite to win the division, so maybe there's not a ton of value on that price. But I think, for example, the Texas Rangers, where I don't think the AL West is all that good. I think Seattle's offensive uptick is very interesting, but Logan Gilbert's hurt. George Kirby's still not back yet. They're a team that has a very delicate balance. Also, they've played 17 games at home, only 12 on the road. Their pitching is going to fare a lot better at home than it will on the road just because of that park factor. But Texas is a team that plays a pretty bad schedule here in the month of May. They're a team I would look at for that May team wins market, but also a team I would look at now in terms of division futures prices, because again, I think things soften up for them a little bit to the point where they can close that gap and maybe even leave the month of May leading that division.
Plus 2375 for Texas to have the best record. This is at Circa here in the month of May. And right now, you can still get Texas. Get everybody right now in the West at plus money. The Rangers are plus 210. Third betting option behind Seattle and Houston in that division. Let me give you 3 short faves right now to win their divisions. And tell me which one you think is in the most peril. My Metropolitans, minus $1.35. You've got the Yankees at the same price point at minus $1.35 to win the AL East. And then those Motor City Kitties in Detroit at minus $1.30. So all pretty much the same price points here. Out of those 3, who would you have the most trepidation about?
I'll preface this by saying that, David, I'm sorry. It's the Mets. I mean, the Braves are going to get Ronald Acuna Jr. back here very, very shortly. They're actually targeting, sometime maybe this weekend or early next week to get him back. Spencer Strider will return. He's back from Tommy John. This is just a hamstring issue. The Braves are a team that can absolutely make a charge. And I don't know what is going on with the Phillies. I expected them to look better here early on in the season, but that's a remarkably talented team with a tremendous starting rotation, a good bullpen, a great lineup. I just think it's hard for the Mets to not only sustain this pace where they've won 70% of their games so far. They're not going to do that all season long, but they just have 2 really good teams charging behind them, whereas the Tigers have maybe one decent team in Cleveland coming up behind them. I don't think the Royals are very good. I don't think the Twins are very good. And for the Yankees, I mean, does Boston have enough pitching? Does Tampa Bay have enough everything? Will Baltimore get this thing figured out where they can't get outs from their starters? I think the Yankees have a smoother path, even though they're a flawed team. So sorry to say, even though they got a 4.5 game lead, I think the Mets are the most vulnerable of those 3 teams you mentioned.
It's phenomenal. Buddy, I know our Logan Gilbert pick for the American League Cy Young, not looking too good after he had to leave. But I do want to give you some love. You had Hunter Brown in the betting guide before the year at 25-1, down to plus 650. Very intriguing AL Cy Young race shaping up right now.
Yeah, it really is. I realize we're running out of time here, but I watched a fascinating video from Trevor May, a former Major League reliever, talking about arm angle differences for some of these young guys. Garrett Crochet being one of them, where Crochet has kind of changed his arm angle a little bit in hopes of staying healthier. If he's able to stay healthy, if he's able to give this Red Sox team 170 innings, it's going to be hard to beat him in this Cy Young race. But hey, Hunter Brown's off to a nice start, so I'm happy with that.
We're going to have the Mets part stricken from the record. Adam, great stuff as always, my friend. Everybody give him a check out there on X at Skating Tripods. And really, check out that betting guide. If you want to become a VSiN Pro subscriber, do so. Have access to that Kentucky Derby guide and then some. When we come back, it's Wednesdays with Wes. That's next here, VSiN By The Books.
Oh, Mrs. Garcia, you're a school counselor and new homeowner and grad student. You're an Ander. National University supports the whole you, so you can focus on what matters most. Learn more at nu.edu.
You're tuned in to VSiN By The Books, right here on VSiN.
We are back. VSiN By The Books. Dave Ross, Jensen Lewis is our Wednesday edition of Wednesdays with Wes. The great Wes Reynolds joins us now here in the Progressive Guest Line. Give him a follow on X at Wes Reynolds and the number 1 to complete that there on the Twitter machine. Wes, always great to catch up with you, my friend. Before we get to the CJ Cup here this week in Dallas, Scotty, the big favorite there, we were talking a little bit just leading up to this, and I have been looking ahead. I know it's going to get lost because it's right in the middle of the first month of the NFL season. But the Ryder Cup's going to be on us before we know it here, and Luke Donald's going to bring those Euros over. And I say, I know Scotty Scheffler is still the number 1 player in the world, but it feels like Rory McIlroy is the best player in the world. There's still plus $1.50 in that market. You can get 12-1 for a tie for Europe to retain that cup. Should we be concerned as Americans here as we flip the page to May that we might get steamrolled again, but this time on our home soil in New York?
Yes, we should be concerned, Dave, because you look at the European team, and I just think it's more set at the top, not only with Rory, but with Hatton, with Shane Lowry, with Ludwig Aubert, Tommy Fleetwood, the Højgaards, Justin Rose, who played fantastic. You've got some Europeans that aren't even really playing that great right now that you know are going to be on that team. Victor Hovland, Robert McIntyre, perhaps Sepp Straka. So I think that they just have a little bit more depth right now, and let alone John Rahm, who we haven't even mentioned, if he's going to be selected likely as a captain's pick. But for Team USA, that back end of that team right now, I just have no idea what it looks like. And, we were kind of laughing over break. It's like, might we get somebody like an Andrew Novak on the team? And it's like, no, it's like, could we? The guy just won his first PGA Tour event last week, and it was a team event in New Orleans, partnered with Ben Griffin. But it's like, he's 9th in the points right now.
Wow.
He's 9th in the Ryder Cup points. Brian Harmon is 8th. J.J. Spawn is 10th. So you look at these, and it's like, we've got so many guys, the Tony Finau's of the world, and the Max Homas, and Jordan Spieth, and the guys that have been, mainstays on that team, just are not playing great golf right now.
Wes, the analogy I give you with that idea is in baseball, where it's game 2 of a doubleheader. There's a minor league left-hander, soft tosser that gets called up, and the opposing offense has no film on him, has no idea, and it's like a surprise. So that's the only way that those guys can get it done. So I'm anxious to see how that's filled out.
Yeah, hey, if you leave him out there, it's like you get shelled, kid. You're sink or swim.
Right.
Yep. Hang with him, pal. And speaking of hanging with him, I know you've got a couple of guys targeted in the 30 to 40 to 1 range here for the Byron Nelson. You and I aligned on Sam Burns, and always love when we do that. I know you have the nickname Bermuda Burns here for Sam in this tournament. Your assessment of your top couple of selections from your card this week.
Yeah, Burns is another guy that they would like to see, okay, let's put some form together. Bermuda Burns has been bentgrass Burns, though, too. He's not just a Bermuda specialist in putting. 7th for putting on bentgrass over the last 36 rounds. 4th overall on tour for putting. was better off the tee, 13th at the Heritage. This is a guy that had a lot of win equity, but did not win in 2024. Hadn't won in about 2 years. I think the match play was his last win in 2023. And we know him and Scotty are besties. Mm-hmm. You know, they're best buds. We saw their little ones rolling around on the greens at Augusta National at the par 3 a few weeks ago. So Sam Burns, I think this is a place he'll like, Jensen, because it's a long course. It's about a little less than 7,600. They've lengthened it a little bit this year, and you can't really get in a lot of trouble off the tee, even though they've grown out the rough a little bit. This is going to be a low-scoring Bombers type paradise, and I think Sam Burns can flourish on this layout.
You know, again, I don't want to say what's wrong with world number one Scotty Scheffler, but Wes, he has not won in this calendar year, and we're turning the page to May. So I get why he's the overwhelming favorite, as you mentioned, on kind of a weaker field at plus 280. But would you wait and see if he gets off to a slow start and that number goes up ever so slightly? Because I get the feeling that even the books, Wes, they don't really give you a discount. Let's say Scotty goes out there and shoots. He's 5-6 back after day one. Maybe it drifts to 4-1, but you don't get the right market value for a guy if he doesn't get off to the good start on day one. How do you approach Scotty this week?
That's probably what you have to do, Dave, is wait on it. And because he's by far the class player of the field, he's going to be a shorter favorite. And he's playing in Dallas, where he now resides, his adopted hometown. And certainly he wants to win. He always wants to win these events in the state of Texas, being the former Texas Longhorn player. But in this type of event, I would rather take Scotty at this price, if I'm going to take him at this short price, on what is a more difficult golf course in an elevated event against a stronger field, because then I think you're getting a little more of a fair price. Because with this thing, you're going to have to shoot 23, 24 under. Certainly that's what you've had to do the last 4 years to even be in contention for this thing. So there's a lot of guys out there on the PGA Tour that can shoot 20 under par and win in Birdie Fest. So I think that gives Scotty even less of an advantage in a field like this that's more wide open versus if he's playing in a signature event where he's playing with most of, if not all, the top players on the PGA Tour. And if you look at where he's won at those classic events. He's won at Bay Hill. He's won at Muirfield Village for the Memorial. He's won at TPC Scottsdale. So that's a lot different than winning at kind of a wide open event like this, where you got all these bombers that, hey, any random PGA Tour player can shoot like a 62 or a 61 on this course.
Wes, kind of off the beaten path, but you're the perfect person to ask. So I'm in a guillotine league that I play each week, and we can reset our lineups, obviously, with who's in each tournament. I do have Burns in there. I want to throw a couple of names at you, just a gut reaction of how this course suits their game. So I have Tom Kim, Jake Knapp, Harry Hall as a couple of other names jumping in there in my 6-man DFS lineup. Just your thoughts on how the course fit is for them and where their potential could be in this tournament.
Yeah, Jensen, Jake Knapp was actually a near miss for me. I almost played him at around 50-1 because he's a guy that really flourishes on these type of courses where he can spray it a little bit off the tee and he's not really in that much trouble, and he can recover and make a lot of birdies. Remember, he won his maiden PGA Tour event. He won at the Mexico Open last year, and that's a really similar event, I think, to this, because you got to shoot super low. He was 8th here last year. He was 3rd last week, by the way. He kind of carried Frankie Capon, where they were right in the mix to try to beat Novak and Griffin, and then they hit one in the water on 17, and that sunk their chances, and they finished 3rd. But Knapp is certainly a guy of those that I could see, and also I'll give a little nod to Harry Hall. Harry Hall's short game is terrific. If you look at his putting stats, if you look at scrambling, strokes gained around the green, et cetera, his short game's terrific. And he's been good in these events where it's like, okay, you got to make a lot of birdies here. So I could see him going well. But of those 3 that you gave me, I would say Jake Knapp.
It seems like if you go back a couple weeks ago, Andrew Novak's right there. He's got, about a 6-footer to beat Justin Thomas. Misses that putt at Harbor Town. JT gets the win. Then the next week, Novak, as you mentioned, with Ben Griffin, gets that monkey off the back and wins the very next week. I took a play on Brothers Højgaard on Sunday at 14-1. They came up one stroke short for me last week. But what about this week? Is there that carryover effect that we saw from Novak? Could we which out of the Højgaard twins should we play, if at all?
Could be, and both of these guys have never played this event before, so first time seeing this course. I don't think they're exactly going to be threatened by it. It's a pretty gettable course. It's been one of the easier ones on tour since they moved there in 2021. But I think Nikolai might fit this a little bit better than Rasmus, and it's always a trick, and we've talked about this in past shows, Dave. Which Højgaard do you pick?
Right.
You're worried you're going to pick the wrong one, but both of these guys can bomb it off the tee. Rasmus a little bit longer, but I think Nikolai has been playing a little bit better of the two, so he'd be the one I would go with if I was going with either one of the Great Danes.
Wes, again, I got to get your take on how the Pacers finish things off. Not necessarily after the final whistle, but how do you like them and their chances against my Cavaliers?
I would like Tyrese Halliburton's dad to maybe be put on the second level or in a suite where he can't go on the floor and act a fool, because I thought he really did. And I know a lot of people wanted to defend it, but I'm not defending it at all. But I think this is going to be a good series with the Pacers and the Cavs. The Cavs have the depth to match the Pacers, which the Bucks clearly did not. When you can bring in these guys like Ty Jerome off the bench and Okoro, they go really, really deep. So I think the Cavs probably win the series, but I think the Pacers could go 7 here. I like how they played. The Pacers have played as well as anybody. They have been 4th best record in the league since January 1st. So hopefully the Pacers bring the blue collar gold swagger. By the way, that's a better saying than yes sirs. But I don't get it. I'm rolling with it, but blue collar gold swagger sounds so much better. But looking forward to it on Sunday.
And this is why we enjoy our Wednesdays with Wes. Wes, we appreciate you as always,
Thanks,
my
Wes.
friend. We'll catch up again soon. Don't go anywhere. Cannot wait. A numbers game is next. I know Gil's going to break down this best record in May. That is next here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Oh, Mrs. Garcia, how do you balance it all? You're a school counselor and new homeowner, a mother of 2, and grad student. You're an ander. At National University, we see the whole you. That's why we're dedicated to your professional growth through faculty mentorships and career support, so you can focus on what matters most. National University, supporting the whole you. Learn more at nu.edu.